Did you know over 60% of first-time clients do not return for a second visit? That is so painful, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's where Maya comes in. Maya is the ultimate marketing software for the beauty and wellness industry. We have a proprietary funnel utilizing special algorithms to help connect the right consumers with the right providers at your business. This means that Maya helps you get higher spending clients you love to work with who stay the long haul. If you want to increase your revenue, increase your client count, increase your average ticket, and increase your new client retention, then you need Maya. Go to joinmaya.com to set up your own personal virtual tour and see why over 500,000 consumers have trusted Maya and the businesses we work with to find their perfect beauty and wellness pro. We promise you will love Maya.
Thank you for joining me. This is Katie Whitledge with the Beyond the Technique podcast. Wow, today is episode 609. We have the one and only Ashlee Norman here today. We're going to talk about where you get education matters. And what the perfect person to be here today. You probably know, are following, are obsessed like we are with Ashlee Norman, who is a globally recognized hair colorist, educator, and social media influencer known for her innovative approach to dimensional color and modern haircuts. With 2 decades of experience behind the chair and on stage, Ashlee is celebrated for her theory before technique teaching style that focuses lucrative, logical thinking. We're going to learn about that. And her classes blend foundational knowledge with creative application, making them accessible and empowering for stylists at every level. Through her dynamic presence, both in person and online, Ashlee continues to elevate the industry one transformation at a time. We're obsessed. I know you are. So without further ado, help me welcome first-time guest, Ashlee Norman. Welcome to Beyond the Technique.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited.
I'm excited too. And for everybody listening, we have a link in our show notes for you to watch today's conversation on Beyond the Technique's YouTube channel. It's always fun to see the faces behind the names. You are a very, very busy woman with many talents and many responsibilities. So tell us, what are all the things that you juggle in your life right now?
Oh, man. Well, I'm a mother of 3. So I have a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. I'm also married to my high school sweetheart. So we just celebrated 19 years married, 25 years together total. Thank you. Yeah. And then, I have a traveling education career. So I'm an independent educator. I've been traveling and teaching for 10 years on the road. My first tour was 2015 when I was pregnant with my first child. So it's pretty exciting. He's turning 10 this year. And yeah, I've been doing, every other weekend. I'll teach usually Sunday, Monday, sometimes also Tuesday. Each day is a different course topic. People can take individual days or they can take the whole weekend depending on what the budget allows. And that means I can teach on average 30 to 45 classes in a year in 15 to 20 different cities. So that's my primary business. And then I also have custom tools that I design and manufacture actually with my family. My dad is my manufacturer. My mom is my distributor. So most of our tools are made in California, and my mom is the one who lovingly packages it and takes it to the post office every single day. What else? I have online education. I started teaching online in 2018. And, I still try to release at least one class a year and curate and kind of move that around. And I'm also a sponsored artist for Schwarzkopf and K18. So I work globally with both brands, international hair shows, product campaigns, obviously social media content for them as well. So yeah, I got a lot going on.
And you still squeeze in Pilates class.
Yes, I make that a big priority, which is why I am in mommy mode today. So this is not the Instagram influencer fit. This is the mommy mode, Ashlee, that we're getting today on the video.
Hey, it's the real life real you. I love that. I'm curious, Ashley, how did you decide to get into the beauty industry from the very beginning?
So I fell in love with hair very young. I wanted to be an actress when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13. And then I started doing theater in junior high and high school. And I was actually designing costumes and doing hair backstage on top of acting. And I fell in love with doing hair. Was doing, prom and even some people's weddings at 15. By 17, I was enrolled in cosmetology school through ROP. So basically, it was a government program where you could go to high school half a day and then go to cosmetology the second half of the day. And so by the time I was about, I want to say, it took me like 2 years because I had to go to school at night while finishing my senior year of high school and then starting my freshman year of college. And I graduated cosmetology school at 19 in 2005. So it's been 20 years.
Wow. Where did you have this work ethic? I mean, you've been like grinding since age 15. This is wild. Where did that come from?
Uh, I think you're just born with it, to be honest with you. Like, I have a little note that one of my friends gave me, and it was like, I think I was 15 when I wrote it, and I was like, hey, I have one appointment left for prom. It's at 8 a.m. If you want to take it, please let me know, because if not, it's going to get booked with somebody else. And so, like, it was a handwritten note. This was before pagers, before cell phones, like, kind of crazy. And it's interesting because I see it in my daughter. She's my middle child. She's 7. And I'm telling you, dude, like you just have it or you don't. And this girl, that girl's gonna be famous. You gotta get her autograph now for sure.
That is amazing. Well, and I bet your theater background and being a part of that world has heavily influenced how you craft your own independent education. Now, here's what I'll say. I know other independent educators in this industry, influential people, and the hardest part is getting people to buy the tickets to the show. But you are brilliant with putting on a show. What makes your kind of education combined with your showmanship like this crazy, awesome, different experience?
I definitely do see stage performances as putting on a character, and I take that very seriously down to, how I dress and how I present myself and how I craft my brand. But, obviously there's a lot of entertainment in our industry, and I think it's great. And we need to be entertaining because we can't get up there and be like, clear eyes, dry eyes. Like, you can't be boring, right? And we all have ADHD because, I mean, like, that actually is a superpower. That's kind of like how we can multitask. So you can't sit hairdressers down and just talk at them. You need to make sure that you're creating a whole experience. And, I planned my wedding at 19 years old, and everyone to this day says it was the best wedding because I know how to keep the energy going. You don't want to have these lulls in the experience where you let the energy drop. So that's one thing. But the other thing, too, is like really making sure that it has a lot of substance. So when it comes to education, a lot of people want to throw a party and they serve cake and champagne, but there's no meat to it. So I think my approach is always making sure, okay, what's the protein in the meal? And we can always put the little razzle dazzle party piece around it. And sometimes even in international hair shows, when I'm planning exactly what I'm going to be presenting on stage, I've had people challenge me like, do you really want to go over to the pH scale? There's going to be like 700 people from 20 different countries, and you're also going to be translated into different languages. Like, and I'm just telling them, like, don't take the meat out of the meal, man. Like, let me teach something with substance. And I always push back, and then I'll get on there and I'll teach that pH scale like my life depends on it. And then the next thing you know, people are like, wow, that was the best class in the whole experience because you actually gave me some foundational knowledge. So that's also something that we can't forget about.
And we kind of have maybe a little bit. We have this new upcoming generation of stylists who grew up with technology. So they've learned majority from YouTube or TikTok. What are the pros and cons of that? And like, how do you help guide our industry to make the right choices of where they consume education or how they consume it?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And it's something that I have a lot of conversations about, especially with what I call the legacy hairdresser generation. And I kind of see myself as a half and half, a hybrid. And what I mean by that is the first decade of my career was pre-social media, and the second decade of my career was post-social media. So pre-social media, the academies had the control. So it was Vidal Sassoon, it was Tony and Guy, it was Bumble and Bumble, it was Wella World Academy, DePetro Todd, and I was traveling, LA, San Francisco, New York, London, Paris, easily spent over $100,000 in continuing education the first decade of my career. And so I really understand where this legacy generation comes from, because it was a very, very hard hierarchy to climb. If you wanted to be an educator for Sassoon, you had to start at the bottom. You had to spend years working your way up. You had to be tested out on all the haircuts. Like, can you do the 5-point haircut that Vidal Sassoon, like one of the hardest geometric haircuts in the world? And if you didn't pass, you weren't going to be an educator for Sassoons, period. And so that was good, because if I went to go pay for a class, I knew that the educator that I was getting was vetted. That being said, with that hierarchy, there was also a lot of gatekeeping in terms of, it was kind of a good old boys club, and maybe that's a little sexist for me to say, but it's true, because if you think about how hard it was to climb that hierarchy, you really had to live in a fashion city. Like, you had to live in Manhattan or in the heart of LA, in Beverly Hills, like in London. You couldn't live in a suburb, work part-time in a salon sola, and be raising a couple of kids. Like, that's just not possible. And so women and mothers really, it was really hard for them to get into that higher level of the industry. So, basically social media took down that hierarchy in a lot of ways, and for good and for bad. Obviously, the good is it allowed a space for women and mothers to work in a suburb and have work-life balance. And for me, I started traveling and teaching pregnant. And then with each kid, it was very important for me to breastfeed for the first year of life. And so my mother-in-law was my traveling nanny. And so we traveled every other weekend. And then when I was home, I was working 3 days a week in a 130 square foot studio. And that way I could have 3 days a week to work out, be with my kids, go to the park, and be a mom, And so prior to social media, there was no way for me to become a globally renowned educator, to have a global platform, essentially, without this technology that was a window to the world, essentially. So that's the good. The bad, however, is anyone can walk out of beauty school and be an early adopter to technology and a great entertainer and call themselves an educator, with or without being vetted. And so that's now the issue, is when you go take a class, you don't know if you're just going for a meet and greet to fangirl or fanboy your favorite celebrity, Instagram viral, TikTok viral hairstylist, with a little bit of entertainment on the side, or if you're going for a true masterclass that's really going to change your career. And, that's tricky, because, especially if you are, let's say, a single mom, for example. I have a lot of team members that were single mothers, and they tell me, sometimes they had to make a choice between buying a new pair of shoes for their kids or, investing in a class. And it's like, when you're sacrificing at that level, you really need to get something out of this class that you can apply tomorrow so that you can provide for your children. And when you have some of these kids who really know how to use, video apps and different things to create snackable content, that don't necessarily care about the investment that these people are making, and they're really there to glorify themselves, they're essentially stealing from these women and these mothers. And that's the piece that's painful for me. And so, how do we know what's really quality? Because it's very easy to fake things on social media.
Well, how do you educate people to say, okay, here's what you want to keep a lookout for? Like, here's how Of course, time tells the story. You have 2 decades in this industry. So there's a key, is looking at, has somebody put in the amount of time where their experience is really going to be able to bring lots of value from everything they've learned throughout the years? What are some other ways that you've helped people decide or know if this is going to be meat and potatoes or just the side of ice cream?
Yeah. Um, couple things you want to look for. Number one, is it just a demo only class? Or are they including theory and hands-on? So what's the difference between theory and a demonstration? So when you get up there and demonstrate on a live model, that is showing one solution to a problem, but that's not teaching how to problem solve. Or in other words, if you're purely doing live model demonstration, it's like trying to teach a kid how to read and then having them memorize individual words rather than teaching them the alphabet and the sounds of the letters so they can create any word. So one thing that's really important to me is before I ever bring out a live model, I always do an hour of theory. And what is theory? For example, when I went to Vidal Sassoon, I learned haircut theory, not trending haircuts. I didn't learn 3 trending haircuts that are now irrelevant, 2 decades later. What I learned was that haircuts are comprised of 3 things: shape, line, and technique. There's 3 shapes: circle, round, and square. There's 3 techniques: 0 degree, graduation, which is anything under 90 degrees. Anything above 90 degrees is layer. And then your last one is going to be your lines. So you have vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. So any combination of those 3 creates any haircut. And that's the ABC theory. And so what it did was it made it so when they would give me a picture of a haircut, I could head sheet it out as if drawing a map to a destination. Because I have that foundational knowledge, as the trends change, I can logically figure that out. So that's what I mean about lucrative logical thinking when I talk about my mission statement. So when I teach theory, when it comes to hair color, obviously, there's the color wheel, but we learn obviously that violet cancels yellow in beauty school. I'm talking about, do we know the pH scale? Do we understand the factors of lift? Do we know that, mixing ratio is a factor of lift? Why is it a factor of lift? Where does peroxide live on the pH scale? Where does permanent color live? What are the alkalizers within permanent color? What's the difference between ammonia and MEA? What's the alkalizer within lightener? And, are all lighteners are created equal? What's the difference between an aggressive, highly alkaline lightener and something that is more gentle? Or do we know that each lightener has its own range and its own purpose? So there's so much to know. And then before we even talk about technique, when it comes to technique, if we're talking about highlighting hair, we're talking about creating dimensional color. So a platinum blonde or an all over global blonde is one lightener all over the whole head, every single hair. If we're talking about dimensional or highlighted hair, then we need to choose which hairs to highlight and which ones to leave for contrast. So what are the methods of highlighting? Okay, you have traditional highlight, which is a slice or a weave. Then you have balayage, which is French open air hair painting. Then you have foilage, which is backcombing or teasing. And then your last method of separation is going to be air touch, which is using air pressure to separate hairs. How do you do each method? What are the pros and cons of each? And when would you use which one and why? So before I even touch a head, we got to discuss all of that. And I can go over the pH scale, just the pH scale alone by itself for an hour. And then I offer a little brunch. And so when we have our little brunch break before I bring out our live model, I have people come up to me and they tell me, I've been a hairdresser for 20 years and you just taught me more in 1 hour than I've learned my whole career. Yeah. Because people want to skip that part. They want to get right to the performance, right to their little entertainment. So, if you're just teaching tips and tricks, that's memorization, right? So the other thing is, are they doing guided hands-on? If it's a demo only class, no theory, no hands-on. Listen, if you're teaching a class without hands-on, you don't actually really know if you're a good educator or not. And I'll tell you why. When I do hands-on, I can tell whether or not I did a good job teaching that day. Because if it's clicking, yeah, of course it's hand-eye coordination. So that's the thing. Listen, we do hair with our hands, not our eyes. Just because you watch someone play football doesn't mean you can score a touchdown. It's not enough to intellectually understand what you're doing. You have to develop the hand-eye coordination. So when we start doing the hands-on, that's the piece that we're practicing now. But also, if they're getting it, they're understanding it, I can see right away because they're picking it up on the doll head. If they're fumbling and they're not getting it, then I didn't teach it right, or I need to teach it better, or next time I'm going to do something different. And every single class, I do something a little different. And sometimes my team gets annoyed with me because they're like, Ashlee, you keep changing it. Like we keep thinking like, I'm like, I know, but listen, like I taught the hairline from bottom up and people were getting lost. So now we got to teach it from top down, because watch, now they're getting it and this is easier. So when I do hands-on, that teaches me to be a better educator. And it's also the opportunity for them to practice the hand-eye coordination. So those are a couple things that you would want to look for education, is making sure that all three things are included. The other thing is you want to get a word of mouth referral. Again, it's so easy to make things look amazing on Instagram, but you need to find someone who's taken that person's class and ask them. Because people, of course, they're going to get a picture with the person and they're going to put up a little thing on Instagram. Like, I went and took this person's class. Why? Because, well, they invested. Whether or not the class was good, they're still going to post positive about it. Why? Because they're posting for their client. They're letting their clients know, look, I'm investing in my education because I want to bring the best to you, right? So they're going to do that regardless. However, if you have a side conversation with them off camera, that's going to give them the opportunity to tell you, okay, yeah, well, it was good. I learned a few tips and tricks, but for the money, maybe it wasn't that great, So I think those are a couple pieces of advice I could give.
Oh my gosh, you are so fierce. I get such Erica Jane vibes, which I don't want that to offend you, because she can be serious as F and then turn up and turn out, right? Like, it's so fun. So, a couple things. Are you always this serious, or do you let your hair, like, when do you let your hair down and are most goofy and like so fun? I'm curious.
Um, with my kids, I don't know. I love my kids. I love to party with my kids. They're so much fun. They're so cute. Especially my 3-year-old. Oh, I just love this age. It's hard because it's like, we're pretty much sure we're done. And I'm like, oh, this is the last time I'm going to experience this age. Cause it's like, they're just newly talking, and he's just now learning his alphabet and his ABCs. And he goes, 1, 2, 3, elemental P. He was doing that all morning. I'm like, oh, please don't ever grow up.
And we're kind of similar. I have a 3-year-old. She just turned 3 May 31st. So it's like, I get it. I totally get it. Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. What does this make you feel like when I say fake it till you make it? We've been told in our industry since we were little, I should say, since the beginning, fake it. Sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. How do you feel about that? When is it true? When is it not true? When can it help? When can it hurt?
Yeah. So the thing is, when it comes to fake it till you make it, bullshit can get you to the top, but it's not going to keep you there. So I think there is a lot of bullshit that has blown up and done really well and been very lucrative, but for a short amount of time. And so you see a lot of, it's almost like a child star, you can get famous so quickly now with social media, but the problem is you're not gaining the character to keep you there. And so a lot of people just end up imploding, whether it's their personal life or just really they just don't have the substance to keep people interested for the long term. So, the way I like to say it instead of that is, why not show up and do it for free until you're worth compensating? And so what I mean by that is, like, when I started being an educator in 2007, I had an opportunity to become a network educator for Bumble and Bumble. So back in the day, when you were a Bumble and Bumble exclusive salon, they had a liaison program where they would allow a salon to pick one stylist out of the salon to travel and go take classes. Once they hit a certain product sales goal, they would give points towards education at their academy in Manhattan. And then they would come back and do teach backs. Now, this was, before social media. So when you were doing a teach back, you were just teaching to your salon team. It wasn't an independent education class. You were not selling tickets. You were not even being paid. It was free. So literally, you would sell products to earn education. Then you'd pay for flights and hotels and have deferred income to go get this education. And then you would teach it back to your salon for free just to have this little title. And I did this for 10 years. At the same time, I also ran the assistant program and whole salon education. So I was going and taking all these classes, Sassoon, 20 guy, all these, thousands and thousands of dollars of investment. Every single class I came in, I taught it back. Now, the thing about doing a teach back after you go to attend an education class is that it makes you learn it better. Because if you're going to teach something back, it forces you to get your notes out, review your notes, and create a curriculum around it, get a live model and demonstrate it. It's also an opportunity to then photograph the work and create content out of it. Now, back then, content was like ads in the local magazine and Facebook. So that's what I mean by content. However, doing that for 10 years is what gave me the experience and the credibility to become an independent educator in 2015. So once social media did start, I was already in the process of taking classes, doing teachbacks, getting the content out of it, practicing the curriculum, growing a team from 7 people to 20 people when I ended up leaving. And when someone asked me, would you ever teach a class outside of your salon? I brought that experience. And so instead of faking it till I made it, I did it for free until it was worth compensating.
Wow. Awesome advice. I love that. And an industry colleague, potentially, another industry pro who I've interviewed in the last month, brought up the same thing. Wesley Palmer said, here's everything I've done for free and reinventing myself year after year. I think that's an underutilized, we kind of almost need to humble ourselves, anybody that's new into the industry. And I love that you brought that up. I also love like this recurring theme that I'm kind of noticing is just you had like this tremendous support from family on both your husband's side and your side of the family, just to support your dream because they believe in you. Now you're this mom who shows up to believe in your kids and they light you up. And you now mentor people globally. Like you are not just a mentor for hairstylists in the US, you are everywhere. If somebody's never come to be in a program with you, where would be like the best starting point? I know you have this amazing event in Australia next month. Tell us, where should people start if they're going to invest in their education and start working with you?
If they want to start, I mean, the easiest and the cheapest would be an online class. You can find a class for $50, $100. Obviously, I have a 5-person master class that's a little bit more expensive, but even if you just took like my first class on like the difference between, like I said, all the different hair highlight methods, that one's a fabulous, amazing class. And then if you want more, I would definitely come see me in person because then that's going to include the guided hands-on, and that's what you can't do online, as well as ask questions. So I do, travel and teach all over the US, sometimes internationally. Like you said, I'm going to be in Australia in September. I have a class in Sydney and Melbourne. And I also just opened a small academy in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I live now. So I'm originally a Southern California girl, moved from Los Angeles to Vegas. One of the reasons is because it's a fun city to visit, and I'm hoping that I will have a larger academy soon in the future. For now, I'm basically doing semi-private classes. So 2 people at a time. You can take it with a best friend, or you can just buy it by yourself. And then if another person books, then it'll be you and a stranger. Or if nobody else books, it's just going to be you. And usually I'm doing those on Thursday, Fridays, because I typically travel Saturday through Tuesday. And then you can stay and enjoy the weekend in Vegas after if you want. I also, what else? Trying to think. Sometimes I show up for the trade shows. So I recently was just teaching at Orlando Premiere, some paid classes, some free classes. I just taught it at IBS Vegas. I'm probably going to be at America's Beauty Show next year in Chicago. So you can always catch me at one of those shows. Sometimes a little 60-minute free class, which is pretty nice. But yeah, people can always DM me. I run my own social media, my own Instagram. So that's me. That's not somebody else doing that. So if somebody DMs me and reaches out to me, I typically try to answer back. But yeah, that's it pretty much.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. And I promise you that I'm going to meet you in person at one of these events, hug you and get to know you because I love everything you're saying because you hold yourself up to the highest standard of your craft and you want to help everybody else reach that level. And so I just love and respect that so much. Before we're done today, and by the way, for everybody listening, we have all the links in our show notes per usual. Like we have Ashlee's Instagram. I think for running your own account at the level that you're operating at life is already inspiring because that is like popping off all the time. So amazing. The Instagram link is in our show notes as well as Ashlee's website with all of this information available to you. So go click on it and get connected with her. But yeah, before we're done, Ashlee, what would be final words of encouragement or just wisdom to share with everybody listening today?
I would say, I think in a world where everything is instant, to realize that you have your whole career ahead of you. And then I include myself in that. I think sometimes we're so impatient. We want everything right now. And we forget that it's a journey. One of my favorite sayings is it takes a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. And I try to remember to just pursue the lifetime of mastery. And as a mom and, working in this industry, you can have everything, but just not all at once.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ashlee, for joining me today. With everything you have going on, it means a lot that you would take time to be with us and share your story and these opportunities with our audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Katie.
And thank you all for joining us here week after week. If you appreciate this platform, please take a moment, leave us a 5-star review so that more people like yourself will discover Beyond the Technique, where we're here to change the way that you are supported in your business. Until next time, have an awesome day and stay strong.